There we go. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Well, I'm just so happy to be here with Sushma. And Sushma, if you want to pull up your video, there we go.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome to our Art Toolkit live demo series. And
Thank you for having me here.
We're across the world from each other. It's just 9 a.m. here in Port Townsend, and you're over in Luxembourg.
At 6 p.m.
Oh my goodness. Well, we really appreciate how these connections are possible. And I just want to thank to everyone who's joining us for our live stream and remind you that we've got our chat. So keep an eye. We'd love to hear where you're all watching from. If you'd like to post a little hello and give us your location. And then I'll be keeping an eye on the chat throughout our live demo. So if you have any questions throughout, please don't hesitate to post a little question. Sushma, I learned about your work through Wild Wonder, where we were both recently participant instructors with that.
Yeah, it was a very nice place to be and to teach. It was very new for me as well, so it was a very nice experience.
Oh, I had a wonderful time too. It's a really special conference, and I just loved learning about your book, that you're a your work. You're a self-taught artist and author, and you've got this focus on florals and landscapes that are just colorful and joyful. And just in honor of this demo, my friend has this kind of magical garden, and so I went over and picked some of her flowers because
so beautiful, so colorful.
Yeah, and even though it's technically fall, there's still these like final bursts of color. And so I hope that our demo today with you will help inspire folks to go find all the color they can around them and paint. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Okay, so as you already introduced me, I live in Luxembourg, and I paint florals and landscapes. And I started painting around 6 years ago. Can you hear me fine?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I started painting around 6 years ago without any prior knowledge of painting or anything about brushes, paints, nothing. And I think I had just moved to Germany from India. I'm originally from India. And all the nature around me, the flowers around me, the different seasons, I had not seen all these different seasons of autumn and spring. I never knew. When I learned about it in school, I never understood when they said, the colors change and everything, because the part of India where I come from, that doesn't happen much. And it was all very fascinating, and it was very inspiring. And I think painting was my way of letting it all out, like looking at all of that. It was so overwhelming to me. And that's how I started painting. And over the years, I've taught a lot of people through different classes and courses. And I've released 2 books. One is in German and one is in English, which is the Wildflower Watercolor book, which has been doing really well. I'm very grateful for that. And I also got to quit my full-time job. I was working as an automotive engineer when I was in Germany. So I worked for a decade as an automotive engineer, and now I'm doing art full-time. So doing everything that I love, and I really enjoy my life and enjoy my job. So that's about me.
Wow, look, what a transition from an automotive engineer to an artist. And
I know whenever I say that, everybody says that, like, it's not even related, the 2 jobs. But it happened that way, and I never saw that coming. So
Oh, I love that you've gotten to bring some fresh sort of appreciation to the seasons, and I think that really shows through in your joyful colors. And your book, we've featured it on our toolkit.
It's
and you mentioned we can do something special for our audience today, which is so generous.
So what I thought was that we could paint something from the book, like pick different flowers from the book. So there are more than 30 flowers in the book, which I teach step by step. And we'll pick a few from the book and paint that together, so people get an idea of, how to paint them and how to bring them together. So let's do that today.
Oh, well, I'm so excited. And I've got my palettes with me and my brushes, and I'll be following along. And we have a special giveaway opportunity for everyone watching today. And which is if you type in the code wildflowers, or the word, excuse me, wildflowers into the chat, you will be entered into this giveaway. And Sushma, do you want to share what the giveaway is?
Yeah, so the giveaway is one copy of this book, the Wildflower Watercolor book. So one lucky winner will be taking this home.
Oh, that's so generous of you. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And oh, and we've just got one question too about your book. Is the book available in digital form such as a Kindle or iBooks, or just a hard copy?
No, it's available as a Kindle version as well. So, and that looks very pretty, actually. I like the digital version.
And we'll be announcing the winner just near the end of our demo. So stay tuned. Well, Sushma, how about we bring up your desk, and I can't wait to paint some wildflowers with you.
So do you see it now?
I sure do.
Okay, let me zoom in a bit. Okay. So let's start with a few basic strokes before we directly dive into the painting. So I'm using Fabriano Artistico paper here today. And so it's 100% cotton paper, and which, is really ideal for painting florals. So I've just taken one sheet out from the block. And so the brushes I'll be using today are, so this is a filbert brush that I use, and it's from Silver Brush Limited. It's called Silver Silk 88 Oval Crescent, and it's a 1/2 inch brush. So I like the shape of a filbert brush. The rounded shape makes it easy to paint flowers, and you get those rounded petals. And I also have a round brush here, a size 4 round brush, and a few other round brushes. Let's see what we'll need. But basically, I have 2 filbert brushes of different sizes. One is a 1/2 inch and one is a 3x8 inch. And I have varying size of round brushes. So basically a size 8 and a size 4 of 2 different kinds of round brushes. So we'll see what we need, but basically filbert and round brushes. And if you don't have the filbert brushes, that's totally okay. You can use a round brush to paint the same thing. So for many years, I used only a round brush to paint all my flowers. But very recently, I switched to filbert brush, and it just makes it a little easier for me. But you can, of course, use a round brush. So let me put this away. And I have my colors set up here. So I pour my colors into this palette and also into my Art Toolkit palette, but it's in my bag somewhere, so I took this out today. So yeah, so let's start with a few basic strokes just to familiarize ourselves with the brushes.
Sushma, would it be possible to zoom in just a little bit more on your paper too?
Okay. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, I have a jar of water here and some paper towel. You can use a cotton rag or anything that you have accessible. You'll use that to, dab off your brushes. And just to, if there's too much water in your brush, you can just dab it off. And okay. So I want you to be able to see my palette fully. So I'll just take it up a little bit so that you can see when I'm mixing the colors. Maybe I'll push it a little this side. Okay. Just struggling a little bit with all this tech here. Okay. So I'm taking my big filbert brush, the 1/2 inch filbert brush here, and you can take any color you like. This is just for practice. It doesn't matter which color you use. And I'm just going to use this green here, whatever I have, the greenish bluish color here, because I don't want to waste that. So I'll just use it for the practice strokes. I'm just adding water because it's dry and just mixing it fully. And making sure my brush is completely pressed into the paint and not just the tip of the brush. So So the paint is nice and juicy here. You can see it flows easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the broader side of the brush, that is this, and I'm just going to make strokes like that. And then I'm going to try making it diagonal and quickly lifting like this. So you get those sharp ends when you do that. And now I'm going to try using the thinner side of the brush. So basically you can use the broader side of a filbert brush, or you can use the thinner side. So when you turn it like this, you get a thin side, and you can make the same strokes with that. Or you can go diagonal, or if you want, you can even go upwards, this. And you can do the same thing with the broader side as well. So you go upwards and swiftly do that. And the same thing we can do with our round brushes. So I'll wash this and put this away.
And Sushma, I have a question from our viewers. What hair, what kind of, what are your brushes made of?
Oh, okay. So this is a synthetic hair brush, the silver silk, the filbert brushes. They're actually used for acrylic paints, but it works well for me for watercolors. And this one, silver black velvet, is made from mix of natural hair and synthetic, and it holds water very well, and it lasts a really long time. That's what I've seen. At least this brush that I'm using it for 4 years now, and the tip of the brush is like still I get a very nice point, and it works well. So yeah, but you can always use synthetic brushes, even the round brushes. It doesn't matter. You get a lot of good quality synthetic brushes now. So whatever works for you.
And folks are also curious what brand watercolors you like to use.
Oh, okay. So I use Daniel Smith paints. So all of these are from Daniel Smith. And I don't use all of these in my palette. They're just, some of them are just there for a very long time. But basically, I have 2 primary yellows. That is, one is lemon yellow, one is new gamboge, and 2 primary reds. One is quin rose and the Pyrrole scarlet. And then I have cerulean blue and ultramarine. And then I have 2 greens. One is sap green and perylene green. And I also use browns. One is quinacridone gold and sepia. So the others I don't really use so much, but these are the ones that I frequently use. So if anybody wants to know the exact ones, that's what it is.
Oh, thank you. And we can post in our description after our demo, we'll include that list of paints for viewers.
Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing with my round brush. So I've taken lots of paint in my brush, and you can see that you can use the tip of your finger like this to anchor, and you can make these nice, lovely leaves. So you have to use the full potential of your brush and not just the tip. So I don't want you to, make an outline like this and then color it in. You can, of course, do that. Nothing wrong with that. But for today's session, because we are trying to paint loose and, making use of our brush completely. So try pressing and lifting like that to get these nice pointed ends. And you can do the same thing in different directions. And another thing that you can do is, if you hold your brush perpendicular to your paper, not like this, like that, at 90 degrees, you can get thin lines. And as you press it, slightly if you press, you get a thicker line. And if it goes fully flat, like not fully, like almost flat, you get thicker lines. So try to understand your brush every time so that you know the full potential of your brush. And what else? Yeah, the same thing with those lines. And you can see when I'm painting these thin lines, I'm holding the brush like a pencil here. Whereas for the other strokes, I hold it here in almost at the middle. And you can also turn your brush like that to get those twirly lines. And you can also practice just thin line, then go fully down, then go up, then another line, and then go down again. and go up. So these exercises are really good to familiarize for yourself with the brushes, and your hand movements. It just makes it easier when you start painting the actual flowers or anything. So just every time you warm up like this before you start painting, it just helps you a little to feel a little more confident when you're painting. So, okay. We can start with the main painting now. But if somebody is not very confident and still struggling with this, you can go back and practice all of this again. But yeah, we can start painting now. I'll put this away.
Oh, thank you, Sushma. Those are always fun activities to warm up with a brush. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Running any brush through its paces is so helpful.
That's true. Okay, so I'm again using the same paper, and this is in a block. So it's all glued together on all sides except for one side here, so that once I'm done, I can just remove it, so that if I add too much water, the paper doesn't buckle. So it's all glued together. Okay, so I'm going to paint it this way in the portrait mode here. And let's start with the first flower. So I want to paint poppies here first. So just open it in the book if somebody wants to see exactly what we're going to paint. Okay, let me find it first. Yeah, so these are poppies, and we try to paint this with simple strokes without too much, too much detail. So I'll put it here. And I'm going to take rose scarlet. So it's a lovely red. And just add a little bit water to it. And you can add a little bit of new gumboge if you want to make it slightly orangish. So I like to do that. And I'll start from the top because it's standing tall. Poppies are always, standing out. So I'm taking the filbert brush here, the 1/2 inch filbert brush. You can use a round brush, as I said earlier, and just making these uneven shapes here like this. Just fully pressing my brush and just wiggling it. And here I'll take the thinner side of my brush and just make another stroke like that. Just give it a nice rounded shape. Maybe make
Seems
this
like you're making these shapes with the fewest brush strokes possible, or fewest brush movements possible.
Yes. Yeah. And maybe we'll add one more, maybe at the bottom here. So just a bit this. And another one. Maybe one small one like that. Let's just make this a little uneven at the bottom, so it doesn't look, too perfect or anything. Okay. And while it's drying, I'll put this brush away. And I'm going to take my size 4 brush, and I'll take sepia here, just a little bit. And just wait for a few seconds for this to dry, but not fully. And just with the sepia there, I'll just drop it in here. Just be very careful when you drop this in. You don't want it to fully spread into the red, but just at the bottom here. So just a little bit like that. And allow it to spread gently like that. And I've cleaned my brush, and I'm going to take some sap green. You can also mix your own green here. I like mixing quinacridone gold and ultramarine. It gives a very lovely green, but you can also use the prepared greens as well. And to this, I'm going to add a little bit of the red to, tone it down a little. Generally the sap green or any green that you get, which is already mixed, is a little too bright and not natural looking. So I'll take a little bit of this red and mix it to it. Not too much because they're complementary colors. You're going to get brown if you mix equal quantities. Just a little bit to, make it a little more earthy looking. And then I'm going to just go down like that with a stem, and you can see that I use my little finger to pivot and move my wrist like that. And I'm holding it like a pencil here. Just a minute, it's a little too wet. Okay. And just go down like that. And another one. Okay. And we can add maybe some of the seed pods or the buds. So I'll just go like this. Just being careful here so that it doesn't touch the red. Down. Maybe we add one more here. So again, slightly bending like that, so that it's not fully straight. Go down.
They remind me a bit of figures. You could imagine them standing up and
Yeah,
dancing around on the sidewalk.
yeah. And maybe I'll take a little bit more of the green mix. Again, some sap green and a little bit of this red into it. And I'm just going to make these oval shapes here. I'm still using my size 4 brush. And as I do that, I leave little white gaps in between so that it's not just one oval shape, but there's some light and shadow going on there. So, and here as well. You can also use a bigger brush, so then you don't have to do this so slowly. Just making it a little uneven at the top. Yeah. Yeah. And as this dries, we can add other flowers. So I want to add leaves to this, but I'll do that later because I can position all my flowers and then decide where to put all the leaves. And for this, I'm going to take, I'm going to clean my brush completely, the filbert brush. Just make sure there's no remnant red or green in it. Wipe it. And I'm going to take quinacridone rose and I'll mix it here. I hope you can see that. Yeah. So I'm adding lots of water and making it a very light color. So that's the beauty of watercolors, that you don't need to mix white to make it lighter. You just need to add water and it becomes a light color. So you can see the quinacridone rose is such a dark, intense color here in my palette, but you can get something so light by just adding water to it. And again, I'm taking my filbert brush, the 1/2-inch filbert brush, and I'm going to make these big strokes here at the bottom. So fully pressing my brush and slightly making it bigger like this. So this is one stroke, one petal. And I'll just go down and another petal like that. Make this a little bigger. And maybe another one here. So I'm leaving this white gap in between. Just adding another one like that. This is a simple flower. And I'll just wash my brush and just spread this. So my brush is clean. With just my damp brush, I will just spread it here so that I have this slightly whitish center here, but it's also not, the transition is very smooth from the pink to the white. I'm just lifting off a little bit, not too much, just being very careful with this. So if you lift too much, you'll get those hard lines and you don't want that. And I'll add a little bit of Naples yellow. So yeah, that's one more yellow that I've started using very recently. And I like that very soft pinkish color that it gives. So I'll just add it to the center and just allow it to spread very little, just a tiny drop of it.
Sushma, would it be possible to zoom in a little more on the details that you're working on down there? So
okay, so
thank you.
Is this okay, or should I?
Let's see, I think moving it up helped. And if it's possible to go just a little bit closer, otherwise I think that's just fine.
Okay, I can get it closer.
Thank you.
Just fixing this. Okay, so we can add a few more like this. Maybe one right next to this one. So that.
Sushma, I'm wondering, as I watch you paint, if you have a favorite flower or shape of flower with all of your explorations.
A shape of flower, I don't know. But even I don't know what is my favorite flower, because I love painting flowers of all kinds. But I think it would be a peony. Peony is nice. They look beautiful in real also, and painting them is a challenge, but I actually enjoy painting those flowers. So yeah, I think peonies. Do you have a favorite flower?
Oh goodness. I get nostalgic with sunflowers just because growing up.
Oh, yeah, I hear that. Like a lot of people say when they associate flowers with different memories of their grandparents, or gardening with their mom and all of that. And a lot of these flowers that I see here in Europe, I don't have any such memories. I have to still build those memories with all of those flowers. So yeah, it's very nice to hear when people say, I used to, plant this as a kid with my grandmom, and all of those stories. So it's really fascinating.
Do you have favorite gardens or like botanical gardens to visit, to explore? Where do you find some of your inspiration?
So I live in a very tiny town here in Luxembourg. So there's nothing much happening here, and lots of nature around to, just walk and explore. So I get to see a lot just with my morning walks, and lots of fields and forests all around me. And so I get to see a lot of wildflowers like that. And that was my main inspiration for the book. And yeah, there are a lot of gardens here. And I know quite a few people who have their own big gardens here in Luxembourg. And it's always nice. They invite me to, see all the flowers they're growing. And that is a big inspiration. So, yeah. Okay, so here I was just adding those little petals and then adding a little bit of the Naples yellow in the middle. And here you can see that I added a little more water than necessary. So you get these blooms here all around. But that's okay. Let's not worry about it too much. it doesn't have to be perfect. And once you fill this whole page, the attention won't be over it. And it somewhat looks nice also. It adds some kind of a texture to the flower. So let's just keep it like that and not meddle with it. Okay. So these are some wild roses that we painted. So it'll make some sense once we add the center. So for now, let's leave it like this. And let's wait for it to fully dry. Till then we can paint another flower. And for this, I'm going to take my round brush. So I'm taking my size 8 round brush and I want to paint some irises. So I'll take the same mix, not the same mix. I'm going to take quinacridone rose again, but with that, I'm going to add some ultramarine blue to it to get a nice juicy purple. So I love mixing ultramarine and quinacridone rose. I think it gives really beautiful purples. So I get this nice juicy color here. And I'm going to add lots of water to it because I don't want it to be too dark. I want it to be a light, very light purple, like a lilac color. Maybe a little darker than that, but yeah. And I'm just going to start here. Yeah, maybe here because we have some space here. And I'll just press my brush like I'm painting a leaf. And then another one. And then I'll just add a little more of the purple and one from the bottom like that. And another one from the bottom. Just making it a little uneven at the bottom so they don't look too symmetrical. So something like this. Just add a few lines here.
I want to remind anyone watching that we have a special giveaway opportunity of Sushma's beautiful book on painting wildflowers, where we're getting inspiration today. So if you haven't entered already, you can just write wildflowers in the chat to be entered, and we'll announce the winner near the end of our demo. Oh, I love that darker color, the darker purple.
Yeah, it adds a very lovely touch to it. So I'm just touching it there so that it gently mixes. And we can try the same thing again. So with my brown brush, taking the very light purple first and adding it here, maybe. So just making these leaves kind of like leaves. And then going down and maybe another bigger leaf here. And then one tiny one like that. And another one here. And just dropping in a darker version of the same mix. Just at the center like that. And maybe a little here on the lower part. So there's, tonal variation within each flower. That way you make sure your flowers don't look too flat. And you can just spread it a little bit with water if you want to, adjust the shape. Okay. So we'll wait for this to dry. And till then, I think I'll go back to my poppy here because it looks a little weird. So I'm going back with my Pyrrole Scarlet with my filbert brush, making sure it's not mixed with the green, just taking a little bit of that. And I'll just add another petal here just to make it look like there are, overlapping petals and to fix the shape. You have to make sure your the painting here is fully dry before doing this so that you don't mess the previous layer. And you could go back here if you wanted.
Sushma, I'm really enjoying how you're creating detail through the paint mixing wet on wet, the illusion of sort of detail and depth versus going in and adding every little line or
yeah. I think our eyes can do the work, we don't have to paint every little detail. Once we know what the basic big shape is, our eyes does the rest of the work. So that's why it's not necessary to add all the details. And yeah, coming back to these wild roses here, I think they're dry, at least the first two are dry. So I'll get back to that. I'm taking my round brush, the size 4 round brush here, and I'm going to take quinacridone gold. And you can use any brown that you have, or mix a little bit of brown to yellow so that you don't have like a very dark, intense brown. Should be a little yellowish, and quinacridone gold is a little yellowish, so it works. And just take a little bit here. Okay. And I'll just make a little dot at the center, so that wasn't very too much. Tiny dot like that. And then I'll go around it with little dots, nothing too big, and not all around it, just in some places, because as I said, our eyes will do the work. And you can add some thin lines here and there, not all of them. So that's it. And maybe go back with a little bit of sepia at the center, just to make it a little darker at the center. And we can do that again for the other flower. So starting with the center with tiny dots. And
Sushma, we've got a wonderful question saying, what strategies do you use to think about the shape of the flower you are painting? I think I'd have trouble creating the type of symmetry you are able to create with such seeming ease.
So the one thing that I always think about is to, look at the shape as a whole. So just a second. So instead of looking at every detail, what you can do is, squint your eyes and look at the whole shape of the flower instead of all the little details. So for example, the first thing I do is for a poppy is, okay, it looks like a cup shape. Or if I look at a lavender, so I'm like, okay, it's like a tube shape. So first thing you decide is what is the big basic shape. And then from there, you take it and make it a little uneven and make sure it's not, very symmetrical. And yeah, the point is to not intentionally not make it perfect, I think that's what we always go for. We try to make it look exactly like the flowers we see, but that's really not needed, because even though it's not perfect, when somebody sees, they know what flower you're trying to portray. So that's all I focus on. So I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, that's what I generally do.
Oh, that's terrific advice, looking at that bigger shape. And we have another comment that squinting can be another little help with that, to see those big shapes.
Yeah, exactly. So all the details will get eliminated when you squint and see. So that always helps. Another thing that I do sometimes is I take a picture if it's a little complicated. Like, for example, if I want to paint dahlias or any other flower which has like too many petals, then it's good to take a picture and, turn it into a black and white picture. So you know exactly which parts are darker, which parts are lighter. So like how much light is falling on the flower and which parts of the petal are more in focus and which are less. So then you can focus only on that. And wherever the light is a lot, you can leave white spaces for that. And for the rest, you can use the darker color. So that always helps. And that also allows you to keep it loose without, concentrating on a lot of details. So I do that even for my landscapes, especially when in a landscape, you have to know what is the background, what is the foreground, and all of that. So I take a picture and turn it into a black and white picture. And sometimes I even increase the contrast. So to see the difference between all the different tones and colors. So you really get to know what is in the background, what is in front, and you can focus on that.
That's terrific advice. I like to do the same as well. And then when you've got the black and white, you get less distracted, say from
exactly. Yeah,
print it out on your printer. It's
yeah.
You're not painting your printer colors.
Exactly.
Oh, well, your page is just coming to life. I love seeing the dimension that's coming with these flowers.
Thank you. Are people painting with us or just watching, or there are people who are painting as well?
That's a great question. Anyone, if you'd like to leave a comment, I've been painting along and love to hear if anyone else is. And at the end of the session too, we'd love it if you can tag us with any anything you've created to share from this demo. And Sushma, that brings me to what are some ways to stay connected, and what sort of things do you have coming up with new projects?
Okay, so I'm on Instagram and it's called Sush Hegde. So that's my Instagram handle. And you can always send me whatever you paint today, and you can tag me there, or you can send it as a DM. So I always look at my DMs. And upcoming projects. So currently I'm launching my 8-week watercolor course where I teach everything related to painting florals. So all based on everything related to loose floral interpretations. So there are a lot of flowers like peonies, hydrangeas, lilacs, and a lot of flowers that I'm teaching in this course. And it's a 8-week program. So I take my students through the whole program and, be there with them and guide them as they take the program with me. And I'll be talking a lot about depth and values and about color theory and how to use that. And in the end, actually make your paintings look loose and fun and not too complicated. And painting shouldn't be, a difficult or a inapproachable thing. So that's what I'm teaching. And right now I'm taking enrollment for that. And the course starts on October 11th and the enrollment stops on October 8th, so that I can fully focus on those 8 weeks and be there for the students and do all the necessary work with them. And so that's what I'm working on right now. So if anybody is interested to take this further and dive deep into florals, the enrollment is open right now, and you can go to my Instagram page and you'll find all the details there, and even on my website all the details are available.
Fabulous. And we'll make sure in the description we've got links to your socials and everything else.
Okay.
And we do have people painting along.
Oh, great. That's great.
And others who plan to be watching our replay. So that'll be available here immediately after. And we've got one more wonderful question, and then I think we should announce the winner of our giveaway. This is a terrific question, which is, do you do any layout planning before you begin, or does your overall design develop as you go?
So I think by layout design, I mean like for the composition, I assume.
Yeah, so, like composition planning.
Yeah. So I do plan them a little bit. So for example, I decide what are my big focus flowers. So for example, the poppies and my wild roses are my focus flowers. And then to fill this up, I'm going to add smaller flowers and, lots of tiny details of lots of leaves of different kinds and grass blades and all of that. But I focus on my main flowers and then slowly build the rest based on that, so that the focus always lies on those flowers. And even the colors I choose, I make sure the colors are not, sudden transitions. So there's a gentle transition between the colors. So that's one more thing that I keep in mind. And yeah, so when I'm painting a meadow kind of a thing, like what we're doing today, there's not so much work. But when I'm painting like bouquets or different kinds of compositions, then there's a little bit of planning to do. So I make these tiny thumbnail sketches where, I mark where I want my big flowers to go and the filler flowers to go. And then all the twirls and twigs that give movement and shape to the whole bouquet. So yeah, I do a little bit of planning like that initially. And yeah, so I hope that answers the question.
That's terrific. And it's just, I just love how your pages get so full, full of the colors.
Yeah, I love adding a lot of colors. But yeah, sometimes if you want to set the right mood, like for example, for today, we're going for a very colorful spread. But sometimes if you want like a gentle, to set a very gentle and a soft look in your painting, then the transition would be much lighter than this, because right now we're going from a warm red to a cool red here. But that's because we want like a colorful bunch here. Otherwise, I would be very careful with that as well, so that the transitions are not so sudden between warm and cool colors. So yeah, that's another thing to think about. And what I'm doing here is I'm just using the tip of my filbert brush and adding these little strokes. And as you can see, it's bigger at the bottom, and as you go on top, it becomes smaller and tinier. So get this kind of a triangular shape, and leaving these white spaces in between is important so that, it doesn't look like one big blob there. I'm taking a little bit of this purple and just adding it in there. Just allowing it to spread. Yeah. Maybe a little bit more here. So while this is drying, we can go back to this one. And I'm going to take my round brush now, the size 8 round brush, and take a little bit of the Quin Gold. And a little bit of the ultramarine blue.
Well, as you're putting final finishing touches on your beautiful piece, Sushma, I think we'll announce our winner for our giveaway. So we'll have our outreach coordinator, Cole, in the background posting that in just a minute, and see who our lucky person is.
So as we wait for you to announce, I'm just adding a few leaves here and there, just around these wild roses, just to fill up that space there.
Oh, and fabulous. We have a winner. Congratulations, Tanya Dale, for winning our giveaway. And we'll be sending you a copy of Sushma's beautiful book. If you go ahead and email hello@arttoolkit.com, we'll post this in the chat as well. We'll be able to make sure that's sent off to you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
What a treat. And in your book, you go through, it looks like just all the different kinds of flowers, walking through technique.
Yeah, specifically wildflowers. So yeah, so we have 30 different wildflowers that I teach in the book step by step. And yeah. Just adding leaves here and there. Do we have time to go deeper?
We've got about 5 more minutes if you want to fill in your, seems like your page, your leaves and everything are really filling things in more.
Yeah, so the main things are done. It's just I'm filling up the space with the leaves right now. But yeah, we could add some leaves here. Just for the poppies, just thin strokes like that. And long leaves. And we can connect all of this.
We're getting some comments that we're loving how the leaves are coming out.
Oh, great. I love adding leaves. They're my favorite part because you can just swish and move around and you have leaves. I'm also trying to vary the amount of water I use so that I get different colored or different greens within the leaves so that it's not just all one green.
Yeah, greens can be such a challenge, I think, kind of demystifying how to bring them depth. So I love seeing your approach today, Sushma.
Thank you. And you can add some little leaves here and there. So just to add some height to it. So it can also overlap on these so that it looks like, you know, it's a meadow with lots going on there. And some going out of the frame like that. And also add little dots. Just to show different kind of foliage here. And then bring it down. Add some pen leaves. So you can see all the leaves are very similar strokes. It's just that some leaves are thicker, some leaves are thinner. So that's the only difference. And we could go on and add, more tiny flowers here and more leaves. So it depends on how dense you want to make it look. And you can even go with a filbert brush and add some tiny leaves like that. Some rounded leaves. Maybe some here. And just go back over this if you want to make it look more dense at the bottom. So are there any questions? Other questions that need to be answered?
Oh, I think we've all been so busy painting away, Sushma,
Okay, that's good.
keeping up with these terrific leaves. And I could just spend all day working on these flowers. I think this has been so fun. And I've heard people are writing about being excited to practice their brush strokes and reviewing.
I'm so glad.
And we'll be sure, again, we've got your socials in the description and your website. So if you all want to learn more about Sushma, be sure to visit those. And we'll have this recording and everything else on our website and our YouTube channel, where you can also see a whole other collection of demos. We feel so privileged to get to work with so many amazing artists like you, Sushma. So thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you so much for having me today. Really a privilege to be here. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Well, everybody who joined us live, we so appreciate you all. And again, everything will be posted in the description. I see a final note about the Sushma's 8-week class. We'll make sure that's there as well. And hope you can join us next time for our next live demo. Our newsletter is the best place to hear about that, our upcoming events, and always Instagram and other socials at Art Toolkit. So hope you all have a wonderful day and keep in touch, and happy painting.
Yeah, happy painting. Bye.